What's up, YouTube? Okay, so this is going to be kind of like a introduction to future videos to come and this video itself. And it's basically just going to be a quick synopsis of these Pokemon Crystal Kaizo runs and like basically my intent going into them. Basically what's going to be happening for the next couple of episodes and kind of an explanation to it because it was kind of bad. And yeah, I just wanted to get that formality out of the way. What's going on here is that I am gathering my initial Pokemon, my first 3 to be exact, past the starter. And my starter, as you can just see there, is level 11. And the reason for that is because I wanted to, or level 12, excuse me. It's because I wanted to grind up to level 12 before the first rival fight. And the reason why I want to do that is because I want to maintain a select amount of money and not lose any, so I have the most amount of Pokeballs going into this run, because I do believe that this run heavily relies on the snowball effect of accumulating money and therefore Pokeballs, which therefore snowballs into more Pokemon for the overall run. And this is good for multitude of reasons. You always have backups of Pokemon just in case your Pokemon die. The hardest part of these Nuzlocke runs is at the very beginning you struggle because you have weak mons, right? You have a very select cast members of Pokemon to take on whatever objective you need to take on, and this game in particular is hard, but that's what makes Nuzlocke in general harder. And so I've pretty much reset this beginning run until I catch the first Pokemon on the first route. Doesn't really matter what it is, but I catch it. The second route, I catch either like a Hoot or a Poliwag. I'll settle with a Rattata as well. But I don't want like a Spinarak, because I think Spinarak is useless, and you're most likely to get a Bug Pokemon on the first route anyways, and that just doubles it up, and I just think it's useless to get it. And then on the third route, this is quintessential. You get Charmander. And the reason why you get Charmander is because Charmander is way more important than Cyndaquil, and Charmander is a really, really good Pokemon and becomes very useful, especially for the second gym, and becoming Charizard. So you really need this mon, and having a Charmander to become Charizard later on is just really good for late game and mid game, and you can pick it up right on route through, so it's a pretty good reset point to guarantee a good like snowball run of Crystal Kaizo. And now, you're probably wondering why I got Chikorita. And the reason why I got Chikorita is because Totodile is kind of useless, because it might be the best one purely off stats and abilities for like before the first gym, but as a game as a whole, it's kind of useless, because at Morty's gym, the 4th gym, you actually get to the right of it after you beat it, a guaranteed Wartortle or Crocodile. And so you basically get a free water starter. So there's really no point in getting a water starter because of that. And you don't really get a Meganium or Chikorita anywhere else besides at the very beginning here. And same goes for Cyndaquil. So then you're asking, why don't I get the Cyndaquil if I'm so reliant on the Charmander, or value the Charmander so much? Well, the reason is because Charmander is better than Cyndaquil. So therefore, I would rather just get the Charmander and then start off with the Chikorita. And so I have the fire I need. I will eventually get a water starter, and I have the Chikorita at the start. And not only and it's not just the fact that I will eventually get a water starter, it's the fact that you will always have more water Pokemon in this run than any other Pokemon, purely because of the traveling back to past towns, and just when you arrive at towns, using rods and surfing to get mons in those towns. So you'll have like an excess of water types. So yeah, these factors have basically led me to get Chikorita and then a Charmander, and then try and snowball the run with that, which I get here. And so after that, I'm going to try and train up the team to level 10, or somewhere around there. Right here, I think I only do 2, and then I'm going to go to the next route, fight the 3 trainers after it, or on it, and then I'm going to check the next 2 mons I get. It's quintessential that I get the Mareep if I want to have a very easy chance of getting the gem, because the Mareep is one of the easiest Pokemon you can catch on this upcoming route that will easily beat the first gym for you, no questions asked, and you will barely have to do any work on doing it. Because the reason why I say easily, and I emphasize that, is because you can always get a Kabuto or an Ammonite on the route after the town with the first gym. But the problem with that is Kabuto and Ammonites are very hard to catch. So you don't want to rely on the fact that you have to get a Kabuto or Ammonite, because shit could just hit the wall or hit the fan, and you could not be able to catch it because of lack of Pokeballs. Your Pokemon could be too low. You could have just accidentally maybe done too much damage or too little damage, not have a Hypnosis. And it's just such a hard Pokemon to catch that a lot of factors have to be right for it to work. Most of the time, I would say if your entire team is surviving and you've made it to that point and you've reset enough to get like an okay team at the very beginning, because I don't think it's really worth to reset past these first 3 routes because it would take way too long. But you usually build up a team that's worthy enough to be able to take on a Kabuto and Omnite and catch it. So that being said, there's also a lot of things. There's a lot of things to play off in these games. A lot of situational Pokemon that you can play off of, and which is really nice because it makes it to where like you can be creative in the way you like try and solve problems, especially with Nuzlocking. For instance, let's say you don't get the electric Pokemon, the Mareep. You then put all your coins on trying to control your money and your Pokeballs to get either the Kabuto or Ammonite, or you can go to the Bellsprout Tower, which you have an equal rare chance. There's about like I would say 6 or 7 Pokemon that can spawn in Bellsprout Tower, and they all have I think around the same spawn rate. I would say it's just equal among all of them, but they're all pretty good. It's a Bellsprout, Bagby, Elekid, Smoochum, Mankey, Natu, and I'm missing 1 or 2 more, but I would say I almost always see them all in about the same percentage. So that being said that you might have missed a Mareep, you can always just go up to the Bellsprout Tower and maybe play your chances on catching an Elekid or a Smoochum to help you fight the gym. The problem with this is it's also very unlikely that you get them in a Pokeball, just like how it's pretty unlikely to get the Kabuto or an Ammonite. So you don't want to rely on that. You want the Mareep, and that's pretty much your guaranteed for the first gym. Along with this Mareep, I would say something else that's quintessential to the run is getting a good like rock ground type in Dark Cave right next to the Mareep route. And the reason for that is this game is riddled with and littered with like explosion users, and the explosion users just genuinely like fuck you at any chance they can, and it makes your day a living fucking hell. And you have to have an answer for it because it will bite you in the ass. I've had teams that were completely stacked all the way up till the 6th gym, like Alakazams, Typhlosions, like just really, really good mons, but then completely fucked by the fact that I don't have anyone that can tank an explosion. So what you're looking for is either a rock-type Pokemon or a ghost-type Pokemon. And then in some slim cases, you could argue that, that having like someone with Reflect, like the Meganium with Reflect, which is also a reason why I got Chikorita, can be good if you can outspeed. So you could use like Giga Drain Reflect, and because Meganium is naturally bulky and Giga Drain heals, you can actually tank like a lot of these hits, which is pretty good. But that's not really as reliable as just having a rock type or ghost type, which completely either nullifies or resists explosions. So I would say also setting up your team to be around that is also good as well. Also a good resetting point. I would say most of the time you never get both, if even one of them, right? I would say you most of the time get a Mareep. A Mareep is actually pretty common if you check all the routes around the city that you can get. A Mareep's pretty common, but getting a rock type is not. So you kind of have to settle with keeping your team safe and then praying later on that you get something that can help you. because resetting for the rock type every time would take way too long, and it's just unreliable. Because you could get a really shitty team other than the rock type and just not be able to beat any of the gyms without like super over leveling, which is just not even fun at that point. Going 30 levels up to beat something random when you have a shit team, it just doesn't seem fun, right? Whenever you could get an okay team and then just be more strategic with it and then beat the game in that way. So that's kind of in a way what I'm doing here. As you can see, I've got the Chikorita, Charmander, the Weedle, and the Poliwag, right? And I just caught the Geodude, so I'm really happy right now. I've got that Rock User. I've got the Poliwag, which is actually really good because it comes Poliwrath, which is a fighting type for the third gym, which is normal type. So that's really nice. I've also got the Fire type for the second gym, but at the moment I'm still missing something for the first gym. So I've noticed that I don't have the Mareep yet. So I'm going to go check the route after the town, see if I can get a Mareep, and if I can't get that, then I'm going to go check either Bellsprout Tower or catch the Kabuto Armonite. Because of how hard each of the Pokemon are in the Bellsprout Tower, that will actually help you with the gym. So Smoochum or Elekid, and then the Kabuto or Armonite. Because of how hard each Pokemon is, unless you just get like really lucky, or you get into the red and then sleep, and then you're probably doing good. In that case, most of the time that doesn't happen. You're gonna waste all your balls on one or the other. So then you have to make an educated decision on whether or not you would rather go check the tower first and then not throw that many balls if it's not an Elekid or Smoochum, but hopefully rely on it and then maybe try and take on the gym and then catch the Kabuto or Ammonite, or don't even count your chances, go straight to the Kabuto and Ammonite, train it up so it helps you with Bellsprout Tower, and then go to the gym and fight it afterwards. And it's just whichever educated decision you would like to make. And yeah, so that's really what you're trying to do here, and that's mainly what I wanted to explain with this early game. Because spoiler alert, I don't expect to beat this on the first attempt, and I'll probably be back here. So I think I should really tell you guys exactly what is going to happen and what my thought process is going into everything. So just to recap, level 1, I'm going to reset right when I get the Pokeballs. The reason why I do that is because I don't think that, because it's pretty well agreed on that the Nuzlocke doesn't start till you get Pokeballs. So what I do is, because there's a chat box that's mandatory right after you get the Pokeballs, I just save the game right after that chat box, just to save like 20 seconds. Like, if that's a big deal, like, sue me, I don't really care. But 20 seconds after, I save it, and then I just reset right there, and I make sure I get 2 good Pokemon. I always want a fire, usually. It's usually what I'm always trying to leave on, is a fire type starter. I'll even take Cyndaquil, but Charmander's ideal. A fire type starter. After that, I level them up to 10 usually. I go and check on the rock dark cave and the next route, which has a high chance of a Mareep. I try and see if I can get a Mareep there. If I don't, that's okay. I go back and train the entire team up to level 10, and then I go and go fight a trainer, which you'll see, and then go to the first town, go check if I can get a Mareep again. If I can't get it, then I go to either the Kabuto or Ammonite area, which is right after the first gym, or I go to Bellsprout Tower, and I try and catch a Smoochum or an Elekid. And this is essentially my strategy every single time going into it. And if I don't get an electric type for the gym, I debate on restarting it. And if I don't get a rock type, I have to debate on restarting it. And the only things that are really changing my mind is how good is my team? So like, if I have a really good team, but I'm just lacking a rock type Pokemon, I will say, okay, fine, I'll keep going and hope I get a rock or steel type, something that can tank the explosions. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention steel is a really good type for explosion users as well. But something that can tank the explosion users, and then keep the really good team, or I just reset. And Same goes for the electric type. I debate whether or not, hey, do I have a really good team, and do I maybe over level a tiny bit more than usual, or go for the Kabuto and Ammonite and beat the gym, and then hope I get electric type later on to hold me on, like a snowball effect. And that's essentially what is always going through my mind every time I do these beginning routes, because I think they're quintessential for getting a run that lasts longer than the third gym and guaranteeing it, at least, because it's too unreliable to not do that, and there's too much riding it, and so I just think it's kind of useless to not reset, because it's just too much time wasted, right? And this game is so hard, and there's so much shit it's throwing at you that you need to have a good team, and so yeah. Also, one last thing I want to mention is you're going to see me talk about this thing called the Ekans, first route skip thing. And so what happens is you just see right now, there's an execute on the screen. And so what happens is if you make it through the first route without encountering a single Pokemon, therefore you have not caught or battled a single Pokemon on this route, so your options of catching Pokemon are still available on the first route, you can go to the second route and you have a chance of getting an Ekans. And the Ekans knows Headbutt, so you can go back to the first route and headbutt the trees, and you have a slight chance of getting a level 10 execute on the first route. And that's absolutely amazing. Execute is amazing. So if you wanted to, you could reset for that, but it would be like so. I would like to add one more thing after what I've just said before we get into the stream, and that is that you guys are probably also wondering why this is at nighttime, and that mainly has to do with the fact that Mareep is more likely to spawn on the following routes during the nighttime, and it's more likely that Pikachu spawns during the daytime, regarding electric types at least. And Pikachu is good, but generally for this game, I want to, and I'm going to have to overlevel a little bit, but I don't want to overly overlevel, because I think it takes the fun out of the game, and it pretty much just means I would just be grinding for 8 gyms until I get to the end of the game, right? And I don't want to do that. I want the entire game to be fun and challenging. So I want to beat the gym and not at an extremely high level. So Pikachu, even at level 20, can't really beat the gym reliably the first gym, even though this entire team's at level 14 and 15. Just because Pikachu isn't that great early game. But Flaffy, though, Evolution of Mareep, is. And so that is why on the first gym, I choose to have it at nighttime because of that. Also, there's Poliwag and Hoothoot, which are really good. And those you can get on the second route. And on the route after the gym, you also have a higher chance at getting like a Houndour. And a Houndour is extremely good because Dark type is pretty scarce in this gen. And so it'll be really useful for something like Morty's gym. And then also Kabutos are rarer at nighttime, or not rare, they're more prevalent at nighttime rather than Ammonites in the route that only Kabutos and Ammonites spawn on. And Kabutos are better for the gym and later on because they're more focused. It's more focused on its rock type and it learns submission rather than it being more focused on the special attacks of water and ice, because you will always get watered Pokemon, like I've said a million times. So there's no real need for that. So I made a point to stating about over leveling in this and why I'm not going to do it, or not to a degree that would be basically ruining the integrity and fun of the run. And that being said, I am going to overlevel slightly. The reason why I do that is because I think this game is possible to Nuzlocke, but I think it's virtually impossible to Nuzlocke if you don't have a good team. So, and especially on set mode. If I'm going to be doing this on set mode, and I'm going to try and keep the integrity of not using any items as well, unless I absolutely have to, then I will use items and then try and continue the run thus far using items. I will only use items if I completely have to, if I know the run is at jeopardy. But I will overlevel just to a slight degree to where I know if I strategically play the gym leader battles well, I will win it and have minimal casualties, and therefore can have a lot of mons for the late game, but not to a point that loses the actual strategic and difficulty spikes of the gyms. So for instance, for the fourth gym, I mean, for the first gym, his entire team's around 14, 15. I'm only going to go 5 levels up, go to 20 on my team. It's enough to play it safe, and as you'll see, if you know how to use the right mons, it makes it pretty easy. Second gym, his team is at 29. I go to 35, 6 levels up. I'm not going anything crazy, just 6 levels up. I've normally done it at level 30 in the past, not on set mode, on switch mode, and I've still been able to beat it then. But with set mode, going to 35, and then so forth and so forth. I will only really stay around a 5 to 6 level jump in over their highest level mon, which I don't think is that bad considering the difficulty of this game. But the only reason why I'm not doing it at around the same level, whereas I'm going 5 levels up, is because I want to maintain the teams for longevity's sake and for an actual chance at beating this game, because I want to beat this game with the Nuzlocke set mode, and I want to do it legit. Okay, thank you guys. Sorry. Okay, so yeah, I think that's going to be it for this video. It was a really, really good time. I hope you guys stop by at twitch.tv/JakeBrownArt and come join me. I'm going to be streaming the entire thing. It's all going to be live. I'm not going to let anything slip by. It's all going to be on the Twitch channel. You can even go back and watch the past recordings. It's going to be the grinding, the losing, the winning. All the attempts are going to be accounted for. Not the whiteouts, but the attempts. And yeah. So if you want to see the entire journey, come on by, and all the videos from now on will just be of the stream.